All right, welcome back. Let's talk about Edo State. This time we're focusing on the education sector. We're being joined on the program in our Lagos studios by the Commissioner for Education Edo State, Dr. Emmanuel Paddy. Dr. Paddy, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I know a lot has been going on, but I'll try to stay focused around your ministry. I don't want to drag you into other part, at least for the first part of the conversation. But I remember prior to the election, we looked through the books of some of the contestants, including the now incumbent governor, the PDP governorship candidate, Aswe Godalo, and all of those to see what they have on offer. We also remember that former Governor Godwin Obaseki had said that he reformed the education sector. I even got awards to that effect. Things like how the curriculum approach to children and training of teachers. And those are some of these gains. I want to know exactly what has happened to those efforts. I think it's called Edo Best in that sense. Because I know that Monok Babalog, the governor, said infrastructure was just in place and all of that. So for Edo Best, let's begin with curriculum and building on that, whether you call it a legacy in this sense. What has happened?
Okay, thank you very much. If you look at the books, if you look at the records of everything happening in the States, I don't know what's best about the program. We still have classes where students have to sit on the floor to take lectures. We still have classes where you have leaking roof, no seats. I don't know what's best about that. You know, when we came on board, we met a very funny system. The governor was very upset. There were some cases where we go to some schools, and when we leave there, I say, "Paddy, we have to fix this mess because this is not." He weeps most of the time because what you see on ground and what we were hearing before we came on board was completely different. So I will tell you, students still scramble to have basic amenities like infrastructure is the least you can do for any child, because we're trying to build a future for these young children. So where they don't have a teacher, you have a class where primary 1, 2, 3 sits in one class. And when the teacher is teaching primary 1, primary 2, and 3 have to hold on. After primary 1,
Is this across the state? So let's contextualize.
Yes.
Even in Benin City?
In Benin City, particularly in Benin City.
But the former commissioner had spoken on our sister political program just last month, I believe. And she said that, look, former Governor Obaseki provided intervention for renovation of infrastructure by about 50%. And in fact, this Edo Best template had been replicated in other states, Bayelsa, Lagos, and even copied by another African country, and that dismantling the Edo Best structure is at best politicking with education. How do you respond?
No, I must say I don't subscribe to that, because I'll give you practical figures. Go to Oroma Primary School in Benin City. Go to Eweka Primary School in Benin City. The records are there. The teachers are there. The principal is there. They have the facts and the figures. You know, we don't have to politicize our educational sector. These children are too dear to us. We are trying to erase the shameful past. So it's not enough to come on air and start saying, because you want to make yourself look good. Go to the streets of Benin. Go to the schools. Talk to the students. Talk to even some of the staffs that they worked with. And they will tell you, Oga, sorry, we just had to window dress things. If it was really the best, we wouldn't have any job to do. As commissioner, I would just come on board and just sit down, they go, and maybe I just do only monitoring. You see, you have students in AAU. How do you run a university where you give the entire management 41 million? How do you conduct research? How do you take care of some of the very important things the school needs to do? The governor came on board, looked at the whole system. What the schools were not doing were to go outside the quota they are being given. We have students who graduated from the medical college. For 3 years, they are home. They are not inducted into the medical profession. They blocked the road, cried to the governor, "Please, sir, help us." And the governor said, "Paddy, we have to fix this. We have to fix this immediately, because we have to frame frames of progress on the street of history." You can't have children go to school and they become they are the hope of their parents, of their community. Then you struggle to train a child to school. The child comes out of school and is at home, can't go for service. 128 of them were inducted upon the intervention of Senator Mondo Bebolo.
All right.
2 weeks ago, we had 810 nursing graduates. We know the health challenges, the lacuna in the health sector, and the need to have proper strengthening. 810 nursing graduates graduated. For 4 years they are home. They can't go for service. They can't be inducted.
It's a very
so these are practical.
Yeah. When you begin to compare, the previous government will tell you, "Oh, we did our best." That's what we call the Edo best. And the challenge is the people at the receiving end are children, right? Our children. Schools will resume next week, and we'll speak to some of the things to expect. Because if we can't fix education, then we should just say, you know what, we're closing shop as a nation. But I want to speak to this. Now, how well are you able to handle this ministry? And I'll explain why. Looking at your pedigree, your trajectory, been in oil and gas, the energy sector, business, and all of that. When you were appointed first SUBEB, you were first in SUBEB before the Ministry of Education, everyone said, this is just a reward for all the work you did during the election. What do you bring to bear? What do you bring on board? Do you have any experience in education that you can bring and say, well, I've done this before and I can transform education in Edo State beyond what they call job for the boys?
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. You know, that's always the perception. I own a school and I run a school, even aside my oil and gas business and all that. And I think leadership is about personality. It's all about what you have upstairs to give. You can have someone who is even in the education sector from the beginning of his career to the end, but be empty. So the governor looked at it, he looked at the passion. First and foremost, he looked at the passion, then he looked at also the background. Yes, I own a school, I've run a school successfully, run a business, been in the private sector. So he said, okay, you'll be able to think the way someone who is result-oriented can think. And so far, so good, the results are there. You can see what we have done in the last 5 months. You don't need to go too far. I've just been enumerating it for you. 128 students, medical students inducted after 3 years. 810 nursing graduates inducted after 4 years. Schools are being renovated across the 3 senatorial zones. Teachers are being recruited. The technical colleges are being revamped. You have a technical college where you do not have light, and the children are doing practicals. What kind of practicals do you expect them to come up with?
I'm glad you mentioned the difference that you've been in the private sector education.
Yes.
By the way, is it a primary, secondary school that you
Primary, secondary.
Primary, secondary. Yes. So there's always been that difference. Yeah. First, for the private schools, you see the quality, there's a standard when it comes to the quality. Yeah. Some have said it's because you pay more naturally. Yeah. Now you are working in government where we know that we don't quite prioritize funding. Yeah. We've not even met, the target, that is a globally agreed target for education funding. So what do you think, what have you seen to be the major challenge of public education? So you don't have classrooms, you don't have proper equipment. There are students that have not seen physical computers. All they see are sketches of computers in public school. So what is exactly the challenge?
Okay, very good question. You know what? 3 days ago, I had a conversation with the governor. I went to give him a brief on some of these issues. And he said, we must make the private school uninteresting to Edo people. And how can we do that? Let's fix our own. By the time, with the structures we are putting in place in Edo State, you have pictures, maybe I think some of your guys do air some of our programs. With the structures we are putting in place. For instance, I'll give you a typical example. Army Day Secondary School in Edo State. They have alumni, great individuals that have graduated from that school, but they left it to ruin. And at the end of the day, you have a school where you have large mass of land. You have students who are in the classroom ready to learn, eager to learn. The governor went there and they were crying.
Yeah, these are some of the visuals.
Yeah, you can see it for yourself. The governor went there and the students were yearning, Akpakomiza, Akpako Rescue. And he right there and then, said immediately, get to work, let's fix this school. As I'm talking to you, we are making plans. After fixing the school, we'll have a workshop We're already in talks with people, some persons in that line. We'll have a workshop where even on practical days, the children will go there and learn how to change the vehicle, oil, engine oil, learn how to change brake pads, do things that will make it very interesting. If we fix our system, if we fix our public schools, the private school owners will have a run for their money, and people will move fields naturally. And that's why I must say that Edo has the best governor, because
it's too early in the day. It's too early in the day for that verdict. Now you're talking as a politician. Not
no. I'm talking based on facts.
No, it's too early. He became a governor barely a few months ago. So let's
became a governor fairly a few months ago. He's building the flyover. Edo people are now even struggling. They go to the flyover to take pictures.
Mr. Pad, it's too early in the day, so that I don't drag you into politics.
Okay, thank you.
If you want us to go there, we'll go there. I'm avoiding that. So let's stay within your spirit.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's talk about curriculum.
Yes.
What are you doing about curriculum? Because I have seen, this is not I read, I have seen a teacher who was there before Obaseki became governor, and I saw the teacher before the teacher retired, on the approach to teaching children, primary school children. So I realized that I don't know what the government did, but there was a reformation in that sense, using language, not the martial way of treating children, more like a bit of a British approach to education in that. I'm not telling you what I read in the book, I'm telling you what I saw. So this is not you debating with me about whether it existed or not. How widespread is a different kettle of fish. But I saw some level of upgrade in terms of the teaching process and practice for primary school teachers and their children, such that they use TAB, such that they don't flog the children, the way they discipline, the way they approach them, the way they inspire them. Is that something you met? Is that something you want to improve upon? And what are you doing to improve curriculum in general? Because we have a curriculum problem even in the entire country.
Okay, very good. It's something we met and something we are going to improve upon, because change is something that has to be constant. You see, we have the federal government right now introduced some extra line items to be included in terms of upholstery, what do you call it, POP design. So those are things we are integrating into the curriculum to ensure that we make it even more better to serve the purpose. Because the overall aim is to make sure that the children, because if you look at the world today, we don't really have to depend only on certificate. You have to also improve the skill of the learner, and that is what we are doing in terms of strengthening and improving based on present day realities, to ensure that they get the best learning requirements as they progress.
So I'm wondering if that was where the Edo Best template excelled in terms of teaching approach and using digital skills to enhance learning and keep track of, teacher presence in classes. I'm wondering if that is where it excelled, but then there was a gaping, lack of intervention, so to speak, in the area of infrastructure. Was that the problem? Before I go on to the next question.
Well, for a $75 million loan, I think that's not enough.
From the World Bank?
Yes.
All right. My next question will be, the former commissioner also talked about what they provided in terms of support for teacher training and the policy intervention that they brought about following what they met from the last administration. She said they returned teacher allowance, lead transport recruitment allowance that teachers got on the anniversary of their employment. They put in place Edo Star, 2 years after which they would be absorbed, the teacher recruitment process. But that your principal has dismantled some of this. Is this true? Or has your principal sustained some of these?
Okay, well, if you say my principal dismantles things that are not in the interest of the Edo people.
Including these that I have outlined?
For instance, you mentioned the Edo Star. Edo Star is instead of employing teachers, you make them contract staff. Let's get it clear. Instead of you want to employ somebody, you bring the person as a contract staff into the system. Then after 2 years, okay, you want to train the person and do all that, fine. But what is the criteria for employing that person? I went to a classroom. You mentioned that I was SUBEB chair. I went to a school, and my spirit led me. If I was a man of God, I would say the Spirit of God told me, or the Holy Spirit told me. But I saw a child, and I just walked up to the child. I opened her book, and the next thing I saw was a dictation about 5. She was asked to spell 5 items, and the 5 items she got only 1 correctly. The other 4 were wrong. And I looked at the girl. Where did you come from? You say, I'm an Edo star. Edo star. Why are you marking a child is spelling rejoice? ROEEGOCE. What kind of... This is a child that will send out to go and compete with her peers, and she comes back, she will fail. So why did you do that? I was not feeling fine that day, blah, 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 blah. So that brings me to the question. What was the criteria in employing some of those people? Was it not political? Because how can somebody like that come into the system and such person will be agitating that they should do X, Y, Z for her? So let me leave that. Let me leave that. Going back to the other question you asked, you talked about training of teachers. Yes, well and good. Training is part of the process. But I went to, upon assumption of office in SUBEB, the UBEC usually gives us, from the federal government, gives us support. 4 years. 4 years teacher training money was hanging there. 4 years.
You got counterpart funding?
Yes, from the federal government. Was hanging there. Not paid. Because they were busy with other things. I don't know.
Because the state could not match. You know, usually there's counterpart. You couldn't
counterpart
match
funding part.
Or are you saying it was released and it was spent anyhow?
That is not part of monies to be matched. You just put up a work plan. You submit it, you follow through with UBEC, and they release the money to you. So, matching grants and counterpart funding has to do with projects. Okay. But this is something that you go there and you put up your work plan. You follow up with UBEC, and they release the money. So I got 4 years approval approved. I got 4 years approval approved after 3 weeks in office.
Okay, so
how do you explain that?
Let's talk about how much you're exposed to and what you intend. Give us, some kind of a timeline and an outcome in that sense, if you call it deliverables under your leadership now of that ministry. How much are you exposed to in terms of your budgets for the states as a ministry? Okay. What's the size of your budget?
48 billion.
48 billion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your projections.
Okay, by the grace of God, by the end of the first year, we hope to have achieved a significant number of new constructions and renovation across with quality teachers. We have started already. The governor gave approval for the first tranche of teachers. 500 teachers have been employed fully into the system. Their training has been done, and they will resume by the end of this month. So what we hope to have by the end of this, with the first 1 year in office, we hope to have at least a minimum of like 2,000 to 3,000 teachers employed to teach our students. We hope to also have schools amounting between now and then about 200 or 300 schools within the first year in office. It's achievable, and the government is driving the process.
The reason I asked that, my apology, reason I asked that question, I'm also trying to find out what is the gap. What are the gaps you found out in terms of, the number of teachers as against the ratio of teachers to students? That is the projection I would like you to give to us. What did you meet on ground? What do you intend to do to close that gap? Because you've mentioned quality of teachers, you've given that instance you explained to us about. So if Edo was to employ the right number of teachers right now, how many teachers are required to be sufficient for the system?
Okay, well, I can't give or take. If we have 4,000 to 5,000, I think we'll be good. Then we'll do a needs assessment as we progress to find out, because you know as the day goes by, people will have more children. Some are going.
People retire.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to be once we have the first tranche, second tranche, third tranche, we'll continue to do a needs assessment to see what we need and how we can close the gap. But for now, I think with 3,000 to 4,000 will be good, at least to strengthen
so you're like 3,500 or so away from the projection.
Yeah. The governor made a big pronouncement last week that they should expect more teachers. The first 500 is gone, the next one is coming, and we'll continue to improve upon it because he's committed to delivering quality education for our children in Edo State.
Well, it's good to still have some sort of projection. Let's have deliverables that people would be able to hold you to, particularly when it comes to education. Yeah. Maybe more specifics. And it's not just the structures as well. This is an age where, I mean, schools are using AI. I mean, children are learning about artificial intelligence. We're really going deep into machine learning, right? So I want to have a sense of maybe how you're thinking in that light. Also, I remember that some days ago, private school proprietors, they staged a protest that the government is almost taxing them into extinction. And I know you've said that the governor, I said, you should make private schools, what's that word now? Not attractive. Not attractive, right? So is that the goal, and has that been resolved? Because they're also complementing the work of the government. So those two things, how forward-thinking are you in terms of education to make Edo children able to compete globally wherever they get to, and a bit about the private schools?
So thank you very much. We're already doing that. We just launched EdoSet with the Belinda and Bill Gates Foundation, where you don't need to go to any ministry to go and pay money to get your certificates. Once you put your ID number on the website, you print out your certificate. For those who are even abroad, paying school fees for their awards, you can just go there and print out. And we are working with data science management to develop AI-enabled software to introduce to our children and to make them compete favorably, as you have said.
When will that happen?
It's already ongoing. We're doing that already. The EdoSet was launched last month, and it's already been implemented across
schools, yes, primary, secondary, even tertiary.
Mr. Paddy. Then for the second point you mentioned, the private schools, that issue has been resolved. We had a meeting with them because we're a proactive government. We had a meeting with them, and they have even written a letter of thank you.
So you're back to 30,000.
So we are back. We have those issues. No, you cannot compare an
Mr. Paddy, your projection. Sorry, Jeffrey, you talked about 4,000. I'm wondering if for the recruitment that you queried from the last administration, have you scrutinized the process such that you can absorb the best out of it, so that some people are not punished because of political differences between former and present administration?
Thank you very much. We have also done verification. If you ask some of those guys, have done verification so that we can sieve out the good hands before we integrate them into the student. Because you will agree with me that the quality of the teacher determines the quality of the student. So we are very particular to make sure that those who are bringing into the system are well trained and qualified. Because when you take a teacher who is just half-baked, you have a half-baked student.
And Mr. Paddy, my apologies, as we begin to wind down, what I think I'm trying to hear, perhaps the audience as well. Infrastructure, it is in this climate, infrastructure is a conversation. That should not be a conversation in a normal climate. It's the quality of the personnel, because those are supposed to be there already. So what is the big picture beyond infrastructure? I know this governor is big on building the infrastructure because what he met is dilapidated and all of that. But from a ministry point of view and as a state point of view, what is the big picture in terms of what you're projecting to be the standard of education, by extension, the quality of people you want to bring out from Edo State to compete with the rest of Nigeria, perhaps the rest of the world? That strategy I haven't heard from you.
That's what we have been discussing. First and foremost,
no, you've been poopering around it.
If you don't have a solid foundation, you can't build a house. If you don't have the infrastructural development in place, where will the students learn from? Will you teach a child when the child is sitting under the tree?
Okay.
Or where he's sitting down in a classroom and he has a leaky roof, and when it rains, he runs out to go and look for shelter? You can't do that. So you must attack the problem from the foundation.
No,
we have mentioned that in terms of technology, we have things in place to ensure that they compete favorably when they go out.
Well, maybe we'll bring
the quality of teachers.
Yes, maybe we'll bring you back to dig deep into that, because as I said, it is here we are having infrastructure as a conversation.
Yeah, but we met an abnormal system, so that's why we are.
I just want to believe that your government will fix infrastructure within the time, and then we'll look at the real issue of curriculum, teacher quality, outcomes, and deliverables. That is what competition is. Not. We're not going to Washington to be saying our schools. We build schools in our village that was dilapidated. That's not a conversation for global community. But we must thank you.
Thank you.
Any last 30 seconds?
Anyway, I want to thank the governor for all he's doing. I want to tell him to encourage him not to get tired. because he's really passionate to change the system.
Okay.
I will believe that by the end of the day, we will have a society in Edo State where children will go to good schools with quality teachers, with the right technology, so they can compete favorably.
Dr. Emmanuel Padi is the Commissioner for Education at Edo State. I know you're also a politician, but we didn't go to politics. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.